Hi, RushRecap here. Today I'm going to explain a sci-fi thriller movie called The Stepford Wives. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins by introducing us to a married couple, Walter and Joanna. Walter is a successful lawyer, while Joanna aspires to be a photographer. They used to live in Manhattan, but are now relocating to the small suburban town of Stepford with their two daughters. Walter is very excited because he has landed a good job opportunity there. However, Joanna appears to be unhappy with the change, as she had hoped to pursue a career as a photographer in the city. In the next scene, the family arrives at their new house, which is huge. While the movers bring in the rest of the stuff, Walter goes outside to feed his dog. During this, he is approached by a woman named Carol, who turns out to be their neighbor. She welcomes him to the town and hands him a casserole, but she has no expression on her face and speaks very strangely. Walter invites Carol inside to meet his wife, but she refuses and departs. The ironic thing is, it's actually people in cities who act like this. The next day, Walter leaves for work and the kids are at school. Joanna explores the area and notices Carol outside pruning the trees. She decides to approach her and thank her for the casserole, but moments later she notices Carol's husband Ted approaching her from behind and basically groping her. He then inspects her by opening the top of her shirt and looking down. This makes Joanna very uncomfortable, and she quietly leaves from there. In the evening, Walter and Joanna talk about their day. While cleaning up the kitchen, she tells him what she saw in the afternoon and how strange it was that the man openly approached his wife and just grabbed her boobs. However, Walter doesn't think it's a big deal since it's her husband. Following this, he informs her that he wishes to join a town association that is exclusively for men. He mentions that this group includes all of the town's important men, such as cops, doctors, lawyers, and businessmen. Joanna gets very angry upon hearing this and accuses him of being selfish and making decisions on his own. She reminds him of how he decided to move here and began looking for houses even before telling her. Joanna knows that he is talking about this men's association because he is already a member. Walter tries to persuade her that it's not true, but she becomes upset and retreats to her room. The next day, Joanna is approached by a woman named Bobby, who has also recently moved to the town. She is a very outgoing and vibrant personality. She and Bobby quickly bond, and the latter reveals that her husband is also a member of the men's association. They then talk about how boring the town and its residents are. They also find it odd that every house in this town is spotless, but there are no maids except for the two of them. All the other wives seem to lack any hobbies and are just focused on housework. In the evening, Walter invites some members from the men's club and shows them around the house. Meanwhile, Joanna is working in the kitchen when a man named Diz approaches her. He mentions that he enjoys watching women perform domestic chores. They then introduce themselves, and Joanna wonders why he is called Diz. He claims it is because he used to work at Disneyland, but she doesn't buy it. Following this, the men gather in the living room to begin planning events for their association. They let Joanna sit in, but when she offers some ideas, they mostly ignore her. Throughout the meeting, an old man continues to observe her and sketch her. When he shows Joanna the finished sketch, she is impressed by his talent. She even gets more excited when she learns that the man is a famous artist whose work she has long admired. After everyone leaves, Walter remarks that the committee members are pretty great. However, Joanna believes that aside from the artist, the rest of them are boring. She found Diz particularly annoying because of his strange habits. Walter responds by saying that Diz has a PhD in business and runs a multi-million-dollar corporation. But Joanna is still unimpressed and states that she would never spend a single moment in a room with these idiots in New York. Days later, Diz throws a massive party for everyone in town. Joanna feels completely out of place, so she sticks with Bobby. Just then, Carol begins to exhibit strange behavior. At first, she insists on getting Joanna and Bobby a drink because they don't have one, but then she just walks off. Later, while she is eating, she approaches several people, saying that she will die if she doesn't get the recipe. When Ted notices this, he becomes worried and approaches his wife. He chastises her for drinking too much and takes her away from the party. The following day, Carol approaches Joanna and Bobby to apologize for what happened at the party. She explains that because they are new, she doesn't want to give a negative impression of the town. She also admits that the only reason she and Ted moved to Stepford was because she had a drinking problem. Hearing this, the two women are confused as it wasn't necessary to apologize. They begin to suspect that the men must have prompted Carol to come over to apologize. Later, Joanna and Bobby talk about how the women in town are overly timid and domestic. They decide to form their own women's association to help them become more confident and outgoing. Over the next few days, they meet with various women in town and try to persuade them to join their club. However, everyone rejects the invitation, saying they need to look after their kids and take care of their homes. After wandering all over town, they finally meet a woman named Charmaine, who is outgoing like them. It turns out she only moved here a few months ago. Charmaine reveals that she used to play tennis with other women when she first arrived here, but they eventually stopped coming and she is not sure why. Charmaine then expresses interest in attending meetings with Bobby and Johanna if they form a club. One evening, something weird happens when one of the guys from the men's committee arrives to visit Johanna. He reveals that he stammers and is therefore overly interested in language and vocals. He asks her to make a list of every place she has ever lived and record herself reading every word from the dictionary. Johanna is perplexed by the weird request, but she agrees to help him. In exchange, she asks him to persuade the wives of the town to join their club. The man is reluctant at first, but eventually agrees. The scene then cuts to the first meeting of the women's club. Charmaine admits that she believes her husband never truly loved her and only married her because he desired a trophy wife. Joanna then encourages the others to open up as well, but they have nothing meaningful to say. Instead, they begin talking about cleaning products and how to make their housework easier. Johanna and Bobby realize how tedious these women are and feel frustrated. Later that night, Johanna leaves the house to walk her dog. While she is gone, the members of the men's club come over to inspect the bedroom. Johanna soon comes across a huge mansion a bit farther from her house. She is then approached by a cop who reveals that this mansion is the headquarters of the men's association. He advises her not to come here at this time, saying it's not safe. Johanna apologizes to the cop and quietly leaves. Days later, she and Bobby arrive at Charmaine's house to play tennis, but they are surprised to see her tennis court being demolished. They then approach Charmaine, who reveals that she just returned from a weekend trip with her husband. She says things are fine between them now, and she is happy. Charmaine then explains that she demolished the tennis court and fired her maid to please her husband. The two women are stunned to see her acting so submissive all of a sudden. Following this, Joanna and Bobby begin investigating the reason for these women's submissive and bland behavior. After questioning some people in the town, they learn that all of these women were once assertive, independent, and staunch supporters of liberal social policy. They are even more shocked to learn that there was once a women's association in the town, led by none other than Carol. Having had enough, Bobby announces that she's going to leave Stepford and asks Joanna to come with her. She is determined not to end up like the other wives. Joanna also agrees, and the two women decide to discuss their plans with their husbands. That night, Joanna tells Walter that she is unhappy in this town and wants to leave. Surprisingly, he agrees, but says they can't move until next month due to work. He asks Joanna to find a new place to live while he completes his work. This overjoys Joanna, and she kisses her husband. Days later, Bobby goes on a weekend trip with her husband. But when she returns, she is a completely different person than before. When Joanna arrives to meet her, she is dressed in a pretty dress with full makeup and is busy with household chores. A shocked Joanna asks what happened to her, but Bobby assures her that everything is fine. She says it's no big deal to take care of the house since her husband works very hard. She also admits that she was just overreacting before and no longer wants to leave Stepford. Seeing this, Joanna is terrified and rushes back to her house. She tries to tell Walter what she saw, but he accuses her of acting crazy. He even tells Joanna to focus on being the perfect housewife and cleaning the house instead of worrying about other people. They soon get into a heated argument, and Joanna threatens to leave. This finally scares Walter, and he begins to speak to her gently. He then starts gaslighting her, saying she is not mentally stable. He tries to convince her that Stepford is a safe and peaceful place. He suggests she see a psychiatrist to help her cope with her anxiety and paranoia. Joanna reluctantly agrees, hoping it might ease her mind. The following day, Joanna visits the psychiatrist, who is also a resident of Stepford. During the session, she expresses her concerns and the strange behavior she has observed in the town. The psychiatrist seems understanding but subtly dismisses her fears, attributing them to the stress of the recent move and her role as a housewife. She prescribes Joanna some medication to help her relax and suggests she immerse herself more in community activities. As Joanna leaves the psychiatrist's office, she feels even more isolated and unsure of whom to trust. Determined to find answers, she decides to dig deeper into the history of Stepford and its residents. She visits the local library and goes through old newspaper archives, discovering disturbing patterns and disappearances linked to the town's history. Meanwhile, Walter continues to attend the men's association meetings, and Joanna notices he is becoming more secretive and distant. She starts to suspect that he is part of whatever is happening to the women of Stepford. One night, while Walter is asleep, she sneaks into his study and finds documents and files related to the men's association, including blueprints and detailed plans. Shocked by her findings, Joanna contacts Bobby, hoping she might have some clarity despite her change in behavior. However, Bobby dismisses her concerns, insisting everything in Stepford is perfect and urging Joanna to just fit in. Realizing she can't rely on anyone in town, Joanna decides to take matters into her own hands. In a desperate attempt to expose the truth, Joanna records a video of herself detailing her experiences and suspicions about Stepford. She plans to send it to a friend in Manhattan, hoping it will reach someone who can help. Before she can send the video, Walter intercepts her and confiscates her phone. Feeling trapped and helpless, Joanna confronts Walter, demanding answers. Walter finally reveals the truth. The men of Stepford have been replacing their wives with obedient, robotic duplicates created by the men's association. Joanna is horrified, realizing that the real Bobby and the other women have been replaced and that she is next. Walter tries to calm Joanna, insisting that life will be better once she is upgraded to a perfect submissive wife. Joanna, refusing to accept this fate, manages to escape the house and runs to the Men's Association headquarters, hoping to find evidence to expose the conspiracy. Inside the headquarters, Joanna discovers a hidden laboratory where the robotic duplicates are created. She sees lifeless copies of the women, including her own duplicate, being programmed and prepared. Just as she is about to be captured, she manages to destroy the equipment, causing chaos in the facility. In the ensuing commotion, Joanna escapes the headquarters and flees the town. She makes her way to Manhattan, where she meets with her friend and hands over the video evidence. Together, they plan to expose the horrifying truth about Stepford to the world. The movie ends with a news report detailing the uncovering of the sinister activities in Stepford, leading to an investigation and the arrest of the men involved. Joanna, though traumatized, finds solace in knowing she helped put an end to the nightmare and saved future potential victims. And that's the plot of The Stepford Wives. It's a chilling exploration of conformity, control, and the loss of individuality. Thanks for watching RushRecap. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more movie recaps. Take care and see you in the next video.